Oh boy! Who wants to get angry at some stupid stuff? I do! And today I'm going to be yelling at this particular headline I saw being shared around all over my social media feeds for the last couple of days now. I know I'm a little bit late to this, but this is a new format. Give me a chance. It says here, parents say It Chapter 2 billboards are scaring kids. It's supposed to. What more is there to say? The jokes write themselves. I don't need to make a video. It's also worth saying that everything I say in today's video is coming from a place of somebody who has been a father figure to 3 kids. Well, okay, technically 2 now. We've got 9-year-old, 12-year-old, and the other one's 18 now, so she's an adult. So I guess now it's the father figure of 2. I don't know, but yeah, that's where this opinion is coming from. Somebody who has got 6, nearly 7 years of experience raising kids in that kind of environment, in that kind of way. So I hope you don't mind me saying that, in my opinion, this news is a big load of dump. If you read further into the article, you'll even see that the parents are looking to ban the billboards and posters for It Chapter 2 around that area, and this is amazing to me because we're living in such a sensitive climate at the moment. So sensitive that real pressing issues are being completely ignored or brushed under the rug and solved another day. But you know, like, we've got Harry Potter books being banned for conjuring spirits, for Christ's sake. I don't know, should we maybe take a look at the laws and regulations of another particular issue going on right now that's very pressing because real lives are being killed right now on a weekly basis? Should we have a look at those and just tweak them a tiny bit? Just take a look at them, reevaluate them, and just tighten the laws around them a little bit? No! Let's ban Ron Weasley! Joking aside about really difficult issues though, this is the dumbest news I've heard in a long time as a parent figure. This is ridiculous. It Chapter 2 is a horror movie. I don't know what more I can say. I mean, it needs to advertise itself, and it needs to subtly suggest and hint to people that probably haven't heard of it, who haven't seen the other movies or don't know what it's based on. They have to subtly hint to the fact that it is indeed a horror film. These posters and billboards are not getting away with showing gratuitous violence or really explicit imagery. It's being as neutral as it can be while showing everyone who maybe don't know about it that it is most likely a horror film with the taglines and everything. I mean, it's pretty clear and it's not that bad. If your kid is scared of this image a little bit, doesn't that mean that the poster has done its job? Doesn't that mean it's explained to you in a very clear-cut, digestible, and unsurprising way that's not shocking, not like springing on you unannounced, nothing like that, just showing you what the film is? Doesn't that mean that it's done its job to show you that this is not a thing for your children, and your children probably shouldn't be watching it either because it's going to be too intense for them? Isn't that what it's supposed to do? I mean, I know loads of adults personally that are absolutely terrified of clowns, even scared of the original It, which is one of the funniest horror movies I think I've ever seen. And so it just makes you wonder, like, what do you set out to accomplish by trying to ban the advertising for this? I mean, because what happens if an adult goes in to watch It Chapter 2 without any prior knowledge of what the film could potentially be about, and then they have a panic attack in the cinema because they don't realise that it had clowns in it, which they've got a major phobia of or something? I mean, would you want to deal with that? No. And all because you don't want to upset your precious little child who's scared of a thing because it's supposed to be scary, with an image that isn't even that scary in the first place. I mean, it's not like they're going into a screening of the Playmobil movie and having this image moving towards the screen in a loud and jumpy trailer before the film starts. They aren't catching you off guard and they're not being in your face. It's a poster for a film that's coming out, not some sort of scary surprise deliberately out to traumatize your kids. And even if your kid is scared of them, who cares? The world does not revolve around your children. As much as if your kid is not very good at maths, you don't expect the school to remove maths from the curriculum. That is the kid's problem, not the advertisers. And I do understand, yes, every kid's different. They've got different emotional ranges, different reactions to different things. Some are more sensitive than the others. Some are terrified of one thing, like tissue paper, and the others are like I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But like, every kid's different, I understand. But it's up to you as a parent when they're at a certain age to start explaining the vast differences between fiction and reality. I think way too many people are wrapped up in this idea that the world is this imaginary kind of mystical, magical place, and it can be to a kid because they've got the imagination to see it in that way, and you have to feed that. That's a good thing. It's creative, it's nice, it's whimsical, it's innocent, but there has to come a point where you need to start laying the ground rules of what is fiction, what is reality, because not only are we talking about an image here, a picture, which physically can't hurt you, but it's also a picture of a thing that doesn't exist, which also can't hurt you. It's as far away from like dangerous as possible. It's just a picture of a thing that doesn't exist. And if you can't get that message across to them, then Jesus Christ, like, how are you going to explain all of the other stuff that may give kids nightmares that are actually real and could potentially hurt you? Has your kid got a phobia of snakes? Well, then why don't we ban them from the pet shops? In fact, what if they've got a phobia of rats? Well, then let's ban them from pet shops too. Are your kids scared of all the Halloween decorations around shopping centres? Well, you better take them down. This is too much. These things are tangible and real, and people have like panic attacks and shocks over these kinds of things in reality. And even if they're completely safe, even if they're nowhere near you and can't do anything, they are still tangible, real threats that can do something to you if not looked after. You know what I'm saying? It's a physical thing. You go to a pet shop, you see a snake. If you're scared of snakes, you know you're safe, but you're still scared that the real snake is behind that glass, you know? So I just don't see the point of hiding and pretending that a thing doesn't exist of a picture of something that's meant for other people's enjoyment that aren't revolved around your kid. I don't see how hiding that kind of thing away from your kid is a good indication or a good introduction in their life to more mature themes of what it means to be a human being. Like, gradually showing them that, yeah, your world is great and lovely, but sometimes as you get older, you've got other things to consider. There's other things we don't understand going on. Ooh. I mean, imagine if you took down every horror advert you ever saw for anything ever because your kids were getting traumatized and they were having nightmares about it. Okay, cool. Well, then imagine then that kid then becomes an adult, and then they see, when they're of the right age, the correct age where they should be exposed to it, imagine that they see something way worse than that. They're not going to have this mental capability to handle what they've seen. I'm not saying that they need to be desensitized by like blood and guts and all sorts of things at like 4 years old, but what I'm saying is that you need to gradually spoon feed some things that are out of their comfort zone, otherwise real life is gonna kick them in the arse. That's all I'm saying. Nightmares are a natural thing we all experience at some point in our lives anyway. It's completely normal, and it's how we are taught to deal with it, whether it be how we deal with it ourselves or our guardians or parents helping us. That's how we overcome this level of fear. I mean, Jesus Christ, do you know what I used to have nightmares about when I was a kid? This scene from Thomas the Tank Engine, this one particular scene on a loop. It's ridiculous. I can't tell you why this triggered me so. I don't know, but it did. It kept me up at night. I used to dream about being locked in a room watching this scene on repeat, and my parents shutting the door and laughing behind the door as I'm sitting there as the volume is getting louder of this scene. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense, but like I said, it's how you're taught to deal with it. Fear is normal, fear is natural, and when it's presented to a mind that maybe can't handle too much fear, when it's presented to them in extremely small and manageable doses, such as this poster, I mean, I don't see the problem. This image here, I can't see how it's unsuitable for anybody to see. What you take out of it from your own head is what you have to try and deal with, or get someone to help you deal with it, because the image itself, there's nothing wrong with it, it's fine. And if the argument is that nobody can escape this advertising, there's posters and billboards in high traffic areas where there are kids everywhere on a 24/7 basis, okay, alright. But first of all, they're not being surrounded by it. I mean, God, being talked about dramatic. And secondly, I mean, what about Halloween? What about Halloween decorations in toy shops? You never hear parents complaining about them, do you? Because it's in context, it's Halloween, that's okay, but everything else, no, it's not okay. And I'm sure there are parents like that. I'm sure that if you've worked in retail, you've had to experience parents complaining about a stand that you've put in a toy shop, or there's a toy that's freaked a kid out and they're asking for a refund. I don't know what you guys have to deal with. I didn't do retail myself. I worked as a cashier in a supermarket, but different kind of problem. But, like, it's just nuts. It's completely nuts, especially when, like, there are ways you can get around this in a logical and completely normal way. In the same way that you would teach your kid to not run at full pelt on the side of a curb right next to the road because there's a danger that they'll fall into the road and get hit by a car and then get killed. In the same way you teach your kid about that by if they're running off towards the edge of the curb, just picking them up and dragging them away and then telling them why it's dangerous and why they could get massively hurt. In the same way that you do that, what's the difference between doing that and then just shielding your kid from an advert that might scare them, or telling them to look away or close their eyes for a couple of seconds and then explaining what it is and all that kind of stuff, and then they might be able to look at it in a different way. Maybe you should give the kids a bit more credit if you actually let them figure it out for themselves. In fact, do you know something that is dangerous and is really scary to a lot of people and hangs around in kid places? Really big dogs that are being walked outside play parks with fields next to them. A big dog is something that can hurt a kid. It's something that can traumatize a kid. It could even get them to a point where they won't want to leave the house for fear of seeing another dog, not just a big dog, but another dog entirely. So that being said, if they're playing in a park and going down the slides and going on the swings, if a big dog is being walked in the field next to the park, would you then allow your kid to run over to the big dog and poke it in the eye? No, you wouldn't, because you would explain why that was a bad idea and the consequences of doing that. And then they wouldn't have to be scared. They could keep their distance and know what the boundaries are and understand why they shouldn't do a specific thing. And not poking a rabid dog in the eye is just one example. There's loads of different examples. But if you can teach your kid to do that in the context of that situation, then why can't you just tell them that the big scary clown man isn't real on a picture that isn't going to hurt you? And it's not even a pic. You can't even make out what the thing is on the picture. That's kind of, it's unintelligible. I don't know. Like, if you didn't know anything about this, it's just you can't even see what it is. So why you can't just say to your kid and tell them what it is, and that it's a grown-up thing for grown-up people to like and enjoy, and it's in a grown-up world, and they should just not look at it if they don't like it. Isn't it kind of obvious? If they're watching a kid's film and something scares them, you just say look away, wouldn't you? So what's the difference here? Kids have heads, kids have eyes, they can move them very easily. And if you're going to sit there and look me in the eye and tell me that this image here is scarier to a kid than this, then you clearly don't know what you're talking about.